What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And in this video, we're going to do mock draft 5.0. Craig and I are ready for it. And so we're just going to jump right into it. You guys have been with us this long. We're going to jump right into it. So we've got the number 2 pick. If you first time seeing these videos, we go back and forth. So Craig, you start it. Number 2, who are the Lions going to take?
All right, I did a little something fun here. Did a little Pro Football Focus mock draft simulator. So nobody can tell me somebody wasn't available. Nobody can tell me that they'll never be there because the mock draft fell this way. So as many of you know, I just put out a video that if we keep the number 2 pick, I want Kayvon Thibodeaux. Well, he got drafted. So with just him left, after putting out 2 videos, one where I said we shouldn't draft Hutchinson, another one where we should draft Thibodeaux, I felt like it would be weird to draft Hutchinson. So I went Kyle Hamilton with the number 2 pick. This is getting steam, man. Like the people are starting to talk about this. They're starting to really put this into perspective that he could go and jump all the way up there because he is a next level safety talent. And here's the reason I took safety, even at number 2. I would have loved to trade down. I just didn't have any trade requests. Nobody offered me a trade, which was weird. But I didn't think Hutchinson was a game breaker at defensive end. There was no need on our team for an offensive tackle. Not that there's even a tackle I think good enough to be taken at number 2. And there's no QB good enough to be taken at number 2. So all these major positions that you're like, no, you need to go here with the number 2 pick. I didn't feel like they fit. So I went Kyle Hamilton. He can be a difference maker for this defense.
I love it. And that's what really it comes down to for me is we are going to get Thibodeaux or Kyle Hamilton or they're going to be available. Yeah. One of the two. So for me, I had Evan Neal going number 1 to Jacksonville. And then, so I took Thibodeaux, would love and would be all over Kyle Hamilton if we took him. But you know, in my previous mocks, I made some tough decisions that I regretted. And I really like
talking about Dean taking Dean number 2.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Dean number 2. Now I've got Thibodeaux. I love it. I'm not sold on Hutchinson. I think he's a great college football player and that
fully agree.
And we are Michigan football fans. So it's like, love this guy. He's a great college football player, but you see it in basketball, especially. You can be a great college Sweet 16 basketball player, take your team to the Final Four. That does not mean you're going to be very good in the NBA. I mean, it's totally different, but you get that analogy where
and not be good in the NFL. Like it's just the way it works. And so by the way, shameless plug here, like you're saying why Hutchinson's not great. We got a video talking about why he wouldn't be good at number 2.
Yep.
I think he's a great pick at number 10, just not at 2. Sorry.
At 2. Exactly. Nope. So right on the same page. So, so who do you have now at number 32?
32. So I got a trade offer. And I thought this was unique because I know 32 is a good pick. And the trade offer I get was from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was number 60 overall. And then next year's 2nd and 3rd round picks. So at first I saw it and I'm like, I don't like that. Then I started realizing TB12 retired. Like they don't have a quarterback. So that means next year you're talking a pick that could be high in the 2nd round, high in the 3rd round. And I started getting my wheels thinking about like, wait a minute, we might be wanting to trade up and we need assets in order to get a quarterback early in the draft next year. This is what my thought process is. We still have a pick right at number 34. Let's get more assets. So I accepted the trade for those reasons. Tampa Bay is not going to be good next year. And I wanted capital for the draft next year. So I got no pick at number 32. I traded back.
Okay. All right. I love almost every trade. There's not a trade back that I just think to myself, it's like, we just need picks for over the next couple years. And we need another draft cycle really to be where we want to be. I think we can do some good things this year, but we really need another draft cycle anyway. So I'm good with that. For me, I went, Jaquan Brisker, safety out of Penn State.
Whoa, totally different.
Yeah.
We haven't taken him as a safety yet.
I'm so hungry for a safety. So I just looked at safeties available, who would be there. And he's a number 2 rated safety. And a few different people had him going end of the 1st round, early 2nd. So I just wanted to get safety. And then I want to focus on linebacker, wide receiver later. But I just look at like Glover Quinn was the last like good safety, making plays, big interceptions, just something. And that's been 8 years ago now. So I just would love to get a nice safety there at 32.
I get it. I get the need for a safety. The reason I don't draft safety in this one and I was willing to trade back, you ready for something crazy?
Mm-hmm.
I really do think there's a chance that Okudah doesn't come back to 100% with that Achilles and he ends up being a safety.
That's a good. I like that. I don't say I like that. I like your thought. I don't know if I like that happening, but I think you're right about that happening.
It could happen.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to take over your mock draft now, and I'm going to ask you who you took with the 34th pick. Who you got going at 34? Hit them 2 in a row. Boom, boom.
Yep. So 34, I have David Bell, wide receiver, Purdue. So you've talked about him before, and I love just get open wide receivers. I think that's the league. I just think, Kelvin Johnson was the last big throw it up to you, but that just isn't sustainable. Doesn't really work. So we've already got St. Brown's getting open. David Bell kind of fits that. Quick, love it. Get open, get down, stay healthy, get some yards, get the first down. David Bell. Who do you got at 34?
I think that was a terrible pick with David Bell. And at number 34, I select wide receiver David Bell out of Purdue.
All right.
So, and I'm not kidding. It's right here. You can see it right here. You can cheat. And look. Like that. That is what I have. I have David Bell. This is the second time in a mock that I've taken him. I just like him. He's a hands catcher. And as I coined while I was doing this, he has a knack for yak. So he is pretty good at getting yak yardage. I think he can play in the slot, but he's an outside wide receiver. Yep. We need an outside wide receiver. I don't know if he's your typical 1 or 2, but he's on the outside and he's a good player. Like I said, production for days, averaged over 120 yards a game in the 11 games that he played. 8-9 catches a game. Like the dude just produced. I know they're pass heavy at Purdue, but I mean, the guy can play and I like him for sure.
Yes. I love that. And it's funny because he really wasn't on my radar till you mentioned
We've never
it.
taken the same person.
I love it.
Great. Yep. Hey, I need to go next though, because I have the 60th pick in my trade. So I have not really addressed a ton. I mean, I had the wide receiver and I was just like, all right, this is good. But this was also my whoops point because we got to number 60 and George Pickens was still available at wide receiver. And I'm like, man, I don't think there's a big gap between Bell and Pickens. So I was like, whoops, but I didn't want to take 2 wide receivers in a row. So I went Kyle Gordon, cornerback out of Washington. This is one of those guys that that Feldman's freak list that comes out every year.
Yes.
It's in college football. And he talks about players that are just athletic nuts. And he's one of them. I'm going to read some of these things. 42-inch vertical, agility time of 3.87 seconds. And he's doing that at 6 feet, 200 pounds. Like he's an athletic freak. The tape shows that he has some of that athleticism and some of that thump. And then, the other stuff, like he has a history of dance and kung fu and ballet. Like what this is a well-rounded human. And I think because he plays in the Pac-12, a lot of times we don't hear about these guys, especially on defense. They're just not getting primetime games. Washington had a down year. So, but he has the ability to come in, play corner. Like I said, I kind of went at this from I don't know if Okudah is going to be back to what he needs to be. So if he's moving to safety, we're going to need to fill corner probably even more than we might need to fill safety.
Yeah. And oh man, corner is just one of those, I hate it, but it's just, boy, it'd be nice if you had some good corners, and we've just had some bad luck, of course, at corner. So it's like, man, if we could just
injury bug.
I'm good with that. Cool. Okay. So that's 60. Glad. Do you have any other picks then?
Or of course I do. I still have number 66.
Okay. That's right. Yep. 66. All right. So I'll go 66 now and then pass it over to you for the final. Okay. So it's funny. You were just talking about your kind of mindset. My mindset, and this is something that you showed me and talked about, was just kind of offensive efficiency in the NFL, how important it was. So I had the similar thing. I don't know. He caught my eye a couple of years ago. Justin Ross, wide receiver out of Clemson, 6'4". He's a bigger receiver, but he's he's a freak athletically, and he's a guy that just hasn't really played. Of course, he had the COVID year, which is kind of weird. Then he had a weird neck injury. So he's one of those projection guys that's just like, it's you haven't heard a lot about him, and then all of a sudden he just pops on the scene because he hasn't really played much, but he's a freak athletically. And I love, so the article you sent me was about how offense efficiency in the NFL is so important. And it makes sense because it's easier for my offense to be better than your defense can be, versus my defense is not going to, be better than your offense typically. So it's like, be good on offense, and defensively, I think we can just get a little bit better, just considering how like good we were with the terrible, just personnel that we had. We were able to be okay. So I think we can add a few pieces, but man, offensively, it'd be great to have our wide receivers set, our offensive line's already set, our running backs are set, our quarterback can do it, I think. So it's like, I would love to give him a fair chance. You made the great point all season long of like, I don't know what Goff is, because come on, Khalif Raymond is not getting open consistently. We've got injuries. So I would love to give him a chance. You've got all the weapons. Offense is set to go. Can you do it or not? So that's why I took him at 66.
Well, yeah. And when you look at him, I mean, like, he's not that far off. I think he's more athletic than Reynolds. And you saw how Goff took off with Reynolds. I've made that point over and over again. And I will say, Chris, this is by far the most similar draft we've had. Mm-hmm. I almost picked him in this spot. I went another wide receiver because George Pickens at Georgia was still available. And I think Ross might be 6'4". I might be wrong on that, but Pickens is 6'3". He's 200. So here was my thought. When I had TJ on here for mock draft 4.0, he took Pickens, I believe, with the 66th pick. And I started doing some research on this guy. And the first thing that jumped out to me was, man, he looks a lot like Amon-Ra St. Brown, just a couple inches taller. And so now you have two guys, both Pickens and Bell, that we've drafted. They can play on the outside, and the offense is complete. Like, it's complete. Now all you're looking for is depth pieces. The offense is there, and we can see what it'll produce. 3 young wide receivers. Like, who doesn't want that? Like, if you have money tied into the quarterback position, then you want to be inexpensive at the wide receiver position, because those are 2 premium high price tag positions. So we can kind of do the flip of what a lot of teams do, which is, okay, we're going to have a rookie quarterback, but then we'll pay money for wide receivers, or we're going to have a quarterback on a rookie contract. But seriously, Pickens is a good player. He had that ACL thing, but he came back late in the year. Did he come back? I don't know if he came back. Did he come back for the playoff? But anyways, dude is physical, competitive, decent route runner. And he's one of those guys that just has more positive traits than negative traits, and has good athleticism to boot. He can play all over the field. He really can.
And dude, that's what I love about our drafts. And what's good for the Lions is, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but maybe we're so bad that we can only get so much better in this draft, because either we go defense heavy and that's going to be really good, or we go offense heavy. So I love what we did. We're going to get a premier defensive player early, and then from there we can go safety. It's just, that's what I mean. It's like, unless I'm being picks. It's like, am I being a slappy, or am I like, whoa, we've got 4 picks in the first 66. We can go any way we go, is just gonna be like, sweet, needed that.
Needed it. And I'm excited about it. And this is good. There's positions to go, but what I like about it is, when you look at those big positions of need, offensive tackle, things like that, it's like, okay, we're okay there.
Exactly.
Well, offensive tackle, we're really good, but like, we're good. So now we can go out and just draft talent. And that's what I tried to do with this one, is just draft talent, and hopefully it shows up on the field.
And that's when we were our best, when we were drafting Ndamukong Suh, Nick Fairley. I would kind of talk about, but we always just draft. We don't even need another D tackle, but you're the best available. And we just had a lot of good players all over the field, and we're just a lot better. I mean, holy smokes. And then
I'm going on a Craig tangent here as we end the video. If somebody's still watching, here's a little extra thing. So Matt Stafford, Ndamukong Suh, Fairley, all these guys, Calvin Johnson, good draft picks, right? Like, we hit on those draft picks. Let's just keep it to Stafford, Suh, and Johnson.
Right.
What if we had those 3 guys when the draft had a regimented pay scale? We're sitting here paying them millions upon hundreds of millions of dollars, like to draft them. And they're just in their first 5 years. Now, if we get those 3 guys while you have the slotted draft picks, like we would have had a really good team in the 2010s or however you say it. The teams like, oh my goodness.
I love it.
But it's not to be. It's okay. It's okay.
Added to the list of Lions misfortunes that have just come and gone. Awesome, man. Well, hey, thanks for watching this video. We'll wrap it up. We'll be back with another mock as we get closer. It's a huge draft for the Lions, hopefully to get better. So we'll catch you on the next one.
See ya.